Hi and welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today I'm seated with Dr. Gobinder and Dr. Sanam, who are cosmetic doctors and founders of this newly launched awesome product here, Rock Melon.
We didn't realise, but only 5 to 10% of medical textbooks, dermatology textbooks, actually have photos of skin of colour.
I wouldn't recommend that, I wouldn't recommend that, I wouldn't recommend that, and all these brands I'd normally recommend, I'm like, then the penny dropped.
At the start of the year, made sure that we have a goal for the next 5 years for our business.
Touch this, turn to gold. That's I'm like, I've got to marry you and more importantly, be my business partner so that you can touch this and turn it to gold.
You have to.
Welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us. We're
Tell
so
me about,
excited to be here.
Oh, it's so good because we've worked together before.
Yeah.
Now it's cool that we get to talk about your business journey. So tell me about you guys.
Well, I'll start by saying thanks again for having us. You know what you're in for because we spent a whole day together and you called us back. So we're thrilled and we're honoured to be here. So my background, I'm a cosmetic doctor as well as a skin cancer doctor. And probably about 18 months ago, we decided to do something crazy and launch our own brand for skincare, which was Rock Melon. Yeah.
And very similar stories. We're husband and wife duo and business partners. But essentially, I am a general practitioner with a special interest in dermatology, skin of colour in particular, because it's such an underserved area in medicine, and also cosmetics, aesthetics, anything beauty. So I love the fact that we've started a skincare brand because as a side hustle, I've always loved makeup, always loved beauty, and I like marrying that with medicine and science, and that's why we started a skincare brand for skin of colour.
She practically made the brand just for herself. Is what I'm hearing at the moment.
I mean, isn't that how most good businesses start?
It
right?
is. It actually is. You've got your own itch that you need to scratch.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you know, there's millions out there that have the same issues. So.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
Very true.
Where have you studied? And did you migrate to Australia? Were you born and raised here, or?
A better question would be, where haven't I studied? No, so I was born and raised in Melbourne, but I've kind of jumped around a little bit. So I did some high schooling in Canberra, did my first degree there, did a Bachelor's of Medical Science, and then started a year of honours and then got into medicine as a postgrad. And then fast forward like 10 years later, you're like, okay, I'm a first year doctor. So did some training in Sydney for the first couple of years and then went on to do general practice training in Wollongong. And then we moved to Melbourne for a couple of years and now we're all the way over here. So, that's kind of been my background. Yeah.
I was actually born in Malaysia. So, Malaysia, truly Asia, represent. My ancestors are from India, grew up in Malaysia, second generation, moved to Australia when I was about 5 years old. So I started prep in New South Wales here. Then did schooling like in New South Wales, Victoria, got into medicine as an undergraduate student and duxed my
she has
cohort.
She has a freakish story. She's
really,
everything she touches turns to gold. That's I'm like, I've got to marry you and more importantly be my business partner so that you can touch this and turn it to gold.
I think we're talking about imposter syndrome later, but essentially I had imposter syndrome my entire life to the point that I'd top everything I did. So I did medicine, topped high school, went into general practice training in Victoria, topped that in my cohort for all my exams, and then was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I actually am passionate about because it's just been a rat race, like junior doctor training, specialty training in general practice, which is 4 years, and then having additional skills, which was for us in cosmetic medicine and dermatology. And then at the end of it, we're like, are we happy? Is this what we really want to do? And we realized that, no, we always wanted to start a business and it was a perfect time for us to do that. He had finished his general practice training, which had been, such an amazing experience.
You just finished your general practice
training.
And
then you went into additional training like skin cancer medicine and cosmetic medicine. I was like, wow, that's really cool. I want to do that. So I kind of followed in his footsteps.
That's so cool.
For better or for worse.
And then after I finished, we were like, hey, what do we do with our lives now? We're done the rat race. Let's start another one.
What's harder than spending 15 years to get where you are? Let's just start it all over again. So literally. That's what we literally did.
Yeah.
And so you started this like on the side of your work, right?
Initially. It was initially, I don't like the word side hustle, but it probably was a bit of like a side project for a little bit until we got the vision behind the brand. And then when we got the vision for what Rock Melon actually stood for, we were like, okay, this deserves our full attention. So that was a bit of an interesting thing, like going from being a full-time doctor, something that you've spent, most of your life, planning for and achieving, to at the end of it all being like, do you know what? I'm going to start completely somewhere else where I have zero expertise and start from like a Padawan again, and work your way up the ranks. And we're still
like, medicine is so hard.
that.
We can do anything. And then you're like, oh, okay. Every skill is a new hurdle and a new obstacle, which is a great challenge. So we thought, why not try?
Plus, we don't have kids yet, so that's a big part of it. We're like risking it for the biscuit before the kids come along. So we'd kind of like done our like little space of travel, and we're like, all right, let's see where we can go with
That's
Rock
smart.
Melon.
Yeah, so I've got a 6-year-old daughter, or she's about to turn 6.
Oh, right.
Wow.
And still trying to grow this business.
Yes.
It's like, I got to double think about all the risks that I take because I know that it'll affect her.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So we don't have to think about those risks. We're just like, we have a sick dog at home, but that's about it. And he costs us a lot of money, but we're like, worst comes to worst, like we move back in with our parents and like that's okay. But I think when a family is involved, it gets harder and harder. But I think,
It does. And also your risk tolerance also probably drops, like you mentioned, because then you've got more on the line, you've got more to lose. We're kind of in the phase where like, okay, worst case scenario, our business fails, sad face. We're still doctors at the end of the day. We'll go
You can go back to
continue
that.
being doctors,
Yeah.
so whatever that is. Or
so whatever we were going to invest in property or ETFs, we were like, let's try to invest it in us while we're younger, while we have the opportunity to fail. And if we fail, that's okay. We can always work hard in the future and exchange time for money at that stage. Whereas right now we want to try to like leverage our time and create something that we don't necessarily have to do that in the future.
You guys are so well aligned with like your visions and goals and how much you wanted to risk. Like, was there, when you were dating, getting to know each other, like, how did you get so aligned?
Oh my
Great
God.
question.
Okay, so if you haven't realised by now, we're like an old married couple.
We are an old married couple.
So we've been married for like, what, 7 years?
7 years, together for 13. We've
Okay,
met
I
at
got
the
that
age
one
of
right. That's the most
18,
important part.
before medical school
bastard
started.
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've kind of, the beauty about it was we've kind of done a lot of that growing up together. So, I'm like, 3 years her senior, been always a little bit ahead in terms of like where we are with studies and blah, 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 blah. But it's been really nice because we kind of shape our values and shape our journey.
Awesome.
And I think along the way we became very, very aligned to the point where, sometimes like we feel like we're the same person.
Yeah, I think so. And then I'd be
She'll
like,
yell at me, and I'll be like, "Why are you yelling at me?" And she's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm actually frustrated at myself." And you're like an extension of me.
or I'll be like, I listened to this really good podcast or audiobook. You have to now listen to everything about it, so we're both aligned. Like we have to be on the same page all the time.
She's very competitive.
But more recently, what we've been doing is being really intentional with that vision planning. So we've been setting aside time during weeks because we still do I would call it almost full-time clinical work, but we've just condensed it all into 9 days a month, and then the rest of the month we work on our business. Wow. And so we're very busy at that time, but the rest of the time we make sure that we have weekly sync meetings. We, at the start of the year, made sure that we have a goal for the next 5 years for our business. And that really helped us. I think we were just like, okay, it's clear what we need to do for the next 3 to 5 years. It's hard. It's going to be hard. These are big goals.
Yeah.
But at least we're aligned with those goals.
And I think once you start taking on more responsibility, that's beyond yourself as well. So like our business has got a couple of employees now. I think a big part of it's actually being able to take your employees on that future journey, because they might see you right at the beginning, but you've got this amazing plan, and if you can take them along that journey and step them through that as well, all of a sudden everyone's aligned on the same vision and the same path.
That's awesome.
So it's been something to be very intentional. That's the right word, over the last 6 months of just saying, okay, we have to nut this out. We've got to think forward in the next 3 years. What does Rock Melon look like? What do our lives look like? And who's involved in the business? Who do we want to spend time with? Who are we hanging around? What are we doing for fun? And where is the business situated? Is it just e-com, or are we now expanding into other areas? So it's something that's the more I think you do, the more crystal clear it becomes, and the more you can have something to aim at.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you necessarily hit it, but you've got a direction. that clarity.
Yeah, I think the inspiration came from a book called, I don't know who the author is, The Vivid Vision. And he talks about like describing your vision to everyone around you, showing them so that everyone knows, even though they might not believe in your vision, you believe it, and they believe that you believe in your vision.
Yeah.
And when you really have that belief, I think that's when you'll actually move forward.
Yeah, like have that confidence and that belief when you share it with others. It means, you know, you're accountable to someone, and that you know that you're going to go and do it. So
exactly.
That's
yes.
cool.
And even if you fail or stumble, at least people have heard what your vision is in life, and rather than being secretive and not ever anyone being able to hold you accountable and be like, how is your business going? Because when someone asks me that now, I'm like, okay, let me get back to like looking at my numbers and doing things. And it's a good type of pressure. It's a good type of stress.
That's good.
Yeah.
Exactly. There was something really interesting in that book, and it talks about this concept of allowing you to focus on the brand that you're becoming, not the brand that you are. And I think for like small business owners, people that are just starting out in the startup phase like us, that gave us a lot of hope, because it's kind of like, do we have the credentials of a multi-million-dollar company? Well, no, not yet. But we've got the vision, we've got the tenacity, we've got all those things. But we can take people along that journey to say, this is where we're actually going to be in the next 12 months, the next 24 months, the next 3 years. This is where what the plans that we have for the business, and describing in every detail that you can. It's a very powerful thing, because all of a sudden you stop talking about where you are and you start talking about the company that you're going to become.
That's awesome. Because where we are today is a result of our past actions and thoughts, right?
Exactly. So you're always looking at what you've done previously.
That's right.
And so,
Awesome. So tell us about how you came up with the idea, and how you got to where it is today.
I might let you start with this one.
So I think the start of it was, we were like, okay, so we're really fulfilled with our medical careers. We want to do something in business. Do we want to open our own cosmetic clinic? Do we want to have a product that we want to sell? So we're just like, as every entrepreneur thinks about ideas, we were brainstorming what we wanted to do. And we were just having like a random walk one day, and you're like, if you really wanted to serve your like community, you wanted to do something that's like puts your 3 Ps together, which is your passion. You'll have to help me with the other 2 Ps. What's the other one?
These are your Ps.
Passion.
They're my Ps.
Tell me about passion. You've already got like skill in that. What's the other P for that?
Oh, your profession.
Passion, your profession.
Yeah.
And then your pain point. So I was like, okay, I'm really passionate about beauty. I'm really passionate about women empowerment. And we have expertise in cosmetics. And then we realized that a lot of women in like brown women like me, South Asian women, brown women, Maori Pacific Islander, they often come to us with skin concerns that are not dealt with by mainstream Eurocentric brands. And we could not recommend skincare that was dedicated to their skin. And I couldn't find skincare that was suited to my skin. I'd have issues like breakouts. I'd have hyperpigmentation issues. And I also always have in the back of my mind anti-aging, because I'm vain. I want to look good all the time. So, and every brand of skincare I'd use would be multiple like complex steps that I'd need to do. I'd walk into a shop and $1,000 later, I still didn't feel like that skincare was effective, and then I'd break out, and then I'm like, what? It's just not working for us. And he was quite deep into his cosmetic injecting at that point as well. And really, like when you look at the foundations of a beautiful house. So if you've got really good concrete slab, you've got a good foundation of your skin, you've got good collagen, you've got a great amount of fat on your face. That's really good for looking healthy and looking young. But if you go into a brand new house and you do lots of real estate stuff, you go into a brand new house, but you put like a carpet down that's moth-eaten, that has got, bits of black and a bit of staining. Really, that's the top surface level of your skin. Yeah. Even if you have a great foundation, but you have terrible skin, it's not going to look great. And that's going to affect people's confidence. That's going to affect people's ability to, show up in life and their careers. And we thought, why not start with filling this gap? And then when we started looking into it, we're like, oh my gosh, there is no skincare for our skin, particularly in countries like Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
So
It was a scary penny drop moment
Yeah.
for me. I remember in clinical practice at a South Asian patient that came to see me, and they're like, "Oh, doc, you talk about skincare being the cornerstone of any cosmetic treatment," and I completely agree with what you talked about. I love the analogy of the house. I use the bed sheets. I'm like, people spend lots of money in the cosmetic world to look good. It's vanity, but it's also confidence, and there's also lots of other things behind it, which people don't necessarily see at face value. But if you talk about like doing up your bed sheets, people might come in for a facelift, and I don't do facelifts. I'm not a plastic surgeon, but as an example, you can have a facelift and you can do the sheets really, really tight, but the sheets are still stained. You don't get the end outcome that you're looking for. And so really skincare is what actually gives you that clarity. It gives you the improvement in the texture. It gives you the improvement in the tone and also things like regulating oil and hydration of the skin. And it's honestly the one step that's probably the biggest, best place to start. The thing that you're actually in control of, and it's probably going to give you the biggest bang for your buck in the long term. So when the patient said to me, you talk about skincare being the cornerstone of any cosmetic journey, what skincare would you recommend? This, and this. I'm like, oh my God, I wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't recommend that. And all these brands I'd normally recommend, I'm like, then the penny dropped and I was like, oh my God, skincare was never made for skin of color. To put it another way, skincare is colorblind, and it treats everyone the same, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
But often with skin of color, it's for the worse. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness. And we went back through all the things and we're like, how do I not know this? Like, I'm a doctor, I've studied for years, I've gone to cosmetics. I was never taught this. And we really went onto this self-discovery journey on why this issue wasn't tackled before.
What is it in the skin that makes it different to...
It's fundamentally biologically different. Like, we have the same building blocks and building structures. So things like, the actual cells themselves are called keratinocytes. The pigment producing cells are called melanocytes. We all have the same basic structure, but we don't have the same makeup. And so, for example, skin of color might have larger pores. We tend to produce more oil, and that oil production leads to its own issues like acne-prone skin, blocked pores, decreased skin clarity. Also, we all got the same number of actual cells that produce pigment, but our ability to turn on pigmentation and produce the pigment cells or the actual pigmentation is sky high. So, for example, when you go into the sun, so my definition of skin of color, to take a step back, is anyone who tans rather than burned in the first 5 to 10 minutes in the sun. Yeah. And when you think about it, it's actually really, really broad. It includes not just South Asians, but Islanders. It includes Middle Eastern people and African people and Mediterranean people. So there's actually lots of people in the world that fit this description.
We also talk a lot about it in our brand as melanin-rich skin. So
yes.
Skin that's going to, where your melanocytes produce this pigment called melanin that gives us the colour of our hair, the colour of our face, the colour of our eyes. And with skin that's melanin rich, the ability to turn on melanin, as you said, is heightened. So when there's an inflammatory response, which means if the skin's irritated, damaged, hurt in any way, instead of just being like, okay, let's go heal, our melanocytes are like, oh my gosh, I need to make pigment. I need to protect myself. So which is really good because melanin actually means that we stay 10 to 20 years younger looking than our Caucasian counterparts. Yeah. However, it also means that we have a lot more discoloration or dyspigmentation or dyschromia, like the color of our skin often isn't uniform because of these normal kind of reactions we have to environmental stress, pimples, damage, and also having oilier skin. So we're very, like, you'll see a lot of teenagers with melanin-rich skin get a lot of dark spots around their acne, and it doesn't fade for months.
And it's not that the acne necessarily is not under control. The acne can be gone, but they're left with a scar that's darker than the rest of the skin. And that's a phenomenon called post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which skin of color is so prone to, as well as all the other pigmentation disorders, which are like 50. Including things like melasma, which is really common. So what we realize is there's unique characteristics of skin of color. Like I said, oily. It's too oily. It's impaired barrier function. We can be very dry. We can be ultra sensitive. So, for example, I've got rosacea. So rosacea is a red skin condition that you'll see in lots of Caucasians. It typically gives you redness around the top, on the cheeks. And a severe form of rosacea is rhinophyma, where you start to get little lumps and bumps on the nose. And I realized, back to my childhood, my grandpa had severe rhinophyma, but I didn't put two and two together now. And I realized, oh my God, I actually have got a touch of rosacea, but you can't see redness in my skin.
Yeah.
So
and left untreated, that can cause deformities of the nose long term.
Correct.
And we didn't realize, but only 5 to 10% of medical textbooks, dermatology textbooks, actually have photos of skin of color, actually show like what happens in our skin.
Yes.
So we don't become red because you can't see redness through melanin, for example, because of that dark color.
Yeah.
But you might see purple, or you might see different hues of brown. So it was really like eye-opening to say that, oh my gosh, not only is there no skincare for our skin, but deeper than that, medically, people aren't trained and beauticians aren't trained, medical doctors, general practitioners, we don't know much about skin of colour. And that's part of our mission at Rockmelon, is
Massively.
to change that, as well as a lot of other things. So our brand is has quite a South Asian touch, and that comes back to my childhood and growing up, where colorism is a huge kind of undertone in our cultural community, where being darker, having a darker skin tone is looked down upon.
Yeah.
And so one of our narratives at Rockmelon is about actually understanding that you can have really good skin texture, but we need to also accept how beautiful this melanin is that we produce, and how, when it's uniform, we should embrace it. Growing up, essentially, I can go into that story for years, but growing up, essentially, I was always called like the Kali, or the dark person in my family, which wasn't.
I'm the same.
Yeah, really?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's like,
I'm darker than my siblings, so they always called me the dark one. Or
Yeah.
yes. Being the black sheep.
And I would
literally.
like after a swimming carnival, I'd go home and I'd feel ashamed in front of my family, because
She
they're
get tanned,
like,
right,
"Why
from
did
the-
you go out
Yes.
in the sun? What are you doing?" And it was like I had done something bad, to the
Yes.
point that I made up that I couldn't go into chlorine water and avoided swimming my entire high school life, and missed out on an awesome, fun activity
Experiences,
and
yeah.
experience. And it was because of this concept, which is still very deep within South Asian cultures,
Yeah.
and is still looked upon.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a negative thing. And so our motto at Rockmelon is to be the change in brown beauty ideals that our mothers needed, we, sisters, cousins, believe in, and our daughters and our future generations deserve. Like, no one deserves to be told that they can't go into the sun, or that they are less beautiful because they're darker. So that's one of our big kind of mission things that gets us out of bed and gets us
It's a really
do this.
insidious but really deep-rooted problem, which I don't think is just specific to South Asian culture. I think if you look at most cultures around the world, even like the Japanese culture and the Chinese culture, they walk around with umbrellas. They've got gloves on their hands.
When you travel in the area, you see the biggest billboards with all the
And I think
Exactly.
I think that's what the problem with the cosmetic industry is it's number one, it's a Western ideal. And so there've always been people in the Western space marketing to other areas as this is what beauty is. And then the other cultures and the other countries then perceive that as, okay, fair is beautiful. You've got to have wide eyes and all this other stuff. That's why South Korea is the largest consumer of plastic surgery for blepharoplasties to make their eyes look more oval and less Asian-like. Which, when you really think about it, from a deep kind of fundamental perspective, is really quite concerning. So that was a big part of our mission. It's to say, hey, we have had this realization, and I'm sure lots of people our generation have had this realization, and that trying to look like someone else or being a completely different skin tone than what you are is never going to be achievable, nor is it healthy. And there's lots of terrible stuff that's associated with it.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about the brand is it's primarily educational, but it also has a deep meaning, which is be that change. And brown is beautiful in whatever shade that comes in.
And I think that's
and celebrate your skin. Yeah.
For other founders listening to this, I think that's the big takeaway from us is like when you can marry your profession into something that you're really passionate about, that has a lot of deeper meaning and that can create societal change. You have to get up. When you want to sleep in and you don't want to work on your business, then you have to get up for this because it's greater than you.
I can definitely hear that passion in your cause and what you guys do.
Yeah.
So what does the product do and how did you develop it?
This is the easy stuff. So this is the science-based stuff.
Yeah.
So I remember back to like medical school and science classes being like in those lectures, which is like how to analyze a scientific article and judge it on its merits and demerits. And I was like, I'm never going to use this in my entire career. Like I don't plan to be like a PhD, triple doctor. And funnily enough, that's exactly where we started. So we went straight back to the literature and we're like,
these are the conditions, the concerns that occur in melanin-rich skin.
Yeah.
What do we need to do to tackle this? And then as a consumer, I was like, what are my pain points? What are my friends, families' pain points when it comes to skincare? Let's find a solution. So we created Australia's first serum. A serum is lighter than a moisturizer. It goes on after you cleanse your face, and it's got the most powerful active ingredients to cause changes biologically in the skin. Yeah. So we're like, if we're going to come up with a product and it's going to be our first one and we need to test first, this is the best option. So we're like, let's find a serum that does it all. It doesn't complicate skincare. It's in one step and has all your active ingredients in it. And then we came to the realization that it's really hard to do that. So we had to R&D and formulate it ourselves, and it took us over a year to do that.
Yes, it did.
How much money did you have to put into doing all that research and to create a new serum?
That's a really good question.
the research is free. But it's the testing and the formulating.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So we helped formulate this. We had all the key ingredients that were like, okay, this is scientifically backed. More importantly, it's backed at the right concentrations. So, you can have, I think the fallacy is the stronger it is, the better it is. But for most people, number one, it's not the case. They can't tolerate it. It's too irritating. Yeah. And so they actually end up, but for skin of color, if it's too irritating, it'll end up causing all those other problems that we talked about before, like the pigmentation. So we really had to be precise with all of this. There was a big research phase. And then we went to
and that research phase can cost anywhere, like if you're formulating a new product, anywhere from 15 to 20,000 in Australia.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. And then we said, okay, so we have an idea what we want into it. How do we actually marry all these ingredients together? Because it doesn't exist. And so we saw some cosmetic chemists who were like, all right, I see what you're doing. I'm like, no, you can't change this concentration. It has to be at this concentration. They're like, oh, are you sure? I'm like, yes, that's what the research shows. Like, we've never mixed this before.
Yeah.
Like, one's oil-based and the other one's water-based. Are you sure? I'm like, that's your job. But so it took like many iterations. And like I said, she is like really pedantic and very specific. And thank God she's like the ideal customer in some ways, or she's the consumer. Because she's like, hey, Gobes, this version of the serum, my makeup pills with it. So I don't know what pilling was. So pilling is like where your makeup and your foundation actually starts to rub and forms into little beads.
Wow.
So most women, when they wear skincare, you'd want it to soak and penetrate into the skin so that you can then put your makeup on. You don't want to then have like really great skincare and then all of a sudden you got to put your makeup on and your face is all peeled. So like we tried and tested to the point where I think we went through like 8 different iterations.
And it also needed to be something that was working 24 hours. So like I didn't want a nighttime solution that only worked while you were asleep and you'd wash it off in the morning. We wanted something that, would cover you for 24 hours. So this is applied morning and night. It covers you for 24 hours and, you're getting all the benefits. So it's got lots of active ingredients in it. Ones that are trialed and tested and are also reliable, and it's science-backed. So it's not
that data behind it.
Some new kind of solution. It's not snail mucin, which has not much data behind it, or castor oil. It's things that have worked for melanin-rich skin. So things like niacinamide, so a lot of these skincare products, they're like vitamins, and they have particular changes to our skin. So niacinamide is a vitamin B3. It reduces oil production. It helps reduce pore size, or the amount of oil that's produced from a pore.
Yeah.
So it's going to tackle the acne issue. Then it's got vitamin C that helps brighten the skin and also prevents pigmentation long term. So that's tackling our pigmentation problem. But then we also still want things like anti-aging, but we don't want people reacting to things like retinol, which often people do. So we discovered a great product called bakuchiol, which helps with anti-aging, helps with people with sensitive skin, and it's comparatively as effective or as efficacious as using a retinol or a retinoid when you're using it long-term in low concentrations. So it was just
That's a
marrying
big
all of
point.
these things that tackled all the
Yes.
issues that skin of colour faces, and putting it in one. Because let's be honest, women are busy, they don't have time. And particularly with all the cultural kind of expectations on us women, we just needed to create a one-step solution. And even if you don't moisturize after this, the main thing you have to do is wear sunscreen afterwards in the morning. But it provides a lot of hydration. So it's got hyaluronic acid, which plumps the skin, and it's got squalane, which also helps with plumping. And because skin of color has barrier issues, like we react to things, we have dryness,
we have more water losses as
we
well.
have water losses.
Yeah.
We also added a lowest molecular weight hyaluronic acid so that it would penetrate and provide that hydration.
She missed the most important ingredient. That's rock melon extract. It's what the brand was named
And that's
after.
what the name comes from, right?
Yeah.
No, well, actually, the name is the melon spelled with an A,
Yeah.
and it's actually meant to be a play on the word melanin.
Melanin.
Yeah,
Yes.
but we were having a laugh over like when we looked at our ingredients list, and we were like, wouldn't it be really interesting if we had rock melon extract in it? It was just a funny thought. And then we went back and we looked at the literature, and we're like, holy crap, it's a really potent. It actually works. And it's a really potent antioxidant.
Yeah.
And we're like, do you know what? We're going to put rock melon extract in it. It's our unique, kind of thumbprint on it.
Yeah.
And so we had all these ideas, and it goes beyond just looking at the active ingredient. Like the amount of thought that went into formulating this was quite a lot, like Sam said, 6 to 12 months. So for example, vitamin C, everyone's like, oh, you got to use a vitamin C. And there's so many different types of vitamin C. That's what nobody tells you. So you can get like a Kmart $5 vitamin C. It's not the same as the vitamin C that's in our serum. So for example, the most efficacious, the most effective form of vitamin C is what is it? It's ascorbic acid, L-ascorbic acid. L-ascorbic acid is the most potent form of vitamin C. What nobody tells you is the more potent it is, the more likely it is to react to other things and become inactive.
When we react to things like our type of skin, we form pigment. So
But even before that, so most people that are using pure L-ascorbic acid, by the time it comes out of the dropper, most of it's deactivated because it's so unstable.
Because it's reacted with everything else.
It's so unstable. So for us, we were like, okay, number one, you can't use something as harsh as that. But number two, there's so many different other forms of vitamin C. We found AA2G, which is ascorbyl 2-glucoside, that has scientific research to show that it's equally as effective as L-ascorbic acid, nowhere near as active. In fact, it's like a slow release. So it'll still be on the skin 12 hours later. So the main challenge out of all that, I'm like, we not only wanted to make skincare that was suited for skin of color, we wanted to blow it out of the water. We wanted to have no other competitors. We wanted to really think through every single thing so that somebody, because I feel like skin of color has been so underserved for so long, we not only need to match the skincare, we need to exceed the skincare. So that was the goal.
Selfishly, if I'm going to put something on my face, it better be making me look this beautiful for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So it was so funny. So when I was talking to Sanam, I'm like, we should totally add bakuchiol, and she's like, why? I'm like, it acts like vitamin A or retinol.
I think I had a hiss fit because I was like, I want a retinol. It needs to be anti-aging
retinol
as well.
And then I was like, look at the data. This have the same efficacy as retinol, but retinol you can't use it in the morning because it reacts to sunlight, so you'll burn your skin. But bakuchiol doesn't. So in other words, you can use. It's like using retinol morning and night. We like hack the system.
Yeah.
So skin of color is getting twice.
And this is just the beginning. We're trying to hack every condition
Every
and
step.
concern with our future range that will come out eventually.
And so you've done spent all this time researching.
Yes.
Getting the serum just right.
Yes.
How do you get from that point to launching to getting sales?
It's a journey. So when we had the actual product in our hand, I think that was like even before we had the bottle, when we had just the formulation and we were happy with it, it was like a big milestone.
Yeah.
And then we had to find manufacturers because the first quotes that we got for manufacturing, they were exorbitant because there's a lot of active ingredients in this.
Yes.
They were beyond what people would be able to, in their right mind, afford. And also it wasn't a strong business model for us. And it is still premium and it is still higher end, but we still wanted it to be, you know, affordable, not a $600 serum, which is what people are charging for all these individual ingredients.
Yes.
We wanted it to be still at least accessible. So then we had to find manufacturing quotes.
The interesting thing about skincare, which most people don't realize, is most of it's white labeled. In other words, if you go to a cosmetic manufacturer, they've already got the formula for you, and all you have to do is slap your brand on top of it. You just have your own packaging. And
that's how, like, a lot of companies you'll see, like, the next influencer has a skincare brand, and you're like, how did they do that?
How did they do it?
Because of they're already like, and not to say that they're not great, but I mean,
it's what everyone else is doing.
It's the same as everything else.
Yes.
It's just with the person's name on it.
Exactly.
And we also want it to be cosmeceutical grade, which is not skincare that's just going to be a topical cosmetic, but something that's going to actually biologically
change the
have
biology
an
to make your
effect.
skin actually better.
So it's not a therapeutic, it's not a pharmaceutical, it's not a drug.
It's in between.
But it's in between a cosmetic and a drug.
Yeah.
Cosmeceutical.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And then packaging. So one of the first things our scientists told us was that it's not going to be how hard the formulation is. It's going to be getting packaging for it.
Yeah.
And we didn't believe him at the time. We're like, really? I'm like,
surely
he's
it's
like,
easy.
You have no idea how hard it was to even source this bottle,
Yeah.
and design it to do everything, and like everything from the fact that it needs to be completely opaque. It cannot have any kind of UV penetration, otherwise the active ingredients degrade. And then it's like the packaging and the style and the back and forth conversations. Nobody does this.
And a lot of people think like you on Alibaba and it's all there, you get it sorted, but it's like
no.
It's only if you want the generic whatever they make, right?
Exactly.
And it's often the quality's not good.
The quality is bad.
It's terrible. So we went through that process. Two or three, they sent us samples and we're like, this is terrible. Hissy fit, like I can't cope with this. And then
you wait so long for it to arrive, right?
So
exactly.
long.
And you're excited.
100%.
Yeah. So key learning point is always order pre-production samples of any product you're going to create.
Start it.
And even if it's a minor tweak, when you have it in your hand, it's the final one. Only then order your 10,000 because the minimum order quantities. Right? Yeah, exactly. The minimum order quantities of ordering these things are 5,000 to 10,000 units.
Yeah.
And that's a significant investment. And if you have one typo, one spelling error, if the text is too small, that's it. Like they're not going to stop. They're not going to wait.
So the bottle, because nobody sources this in Australia, we honestly try to source locally as much as we could. So the carton packaging is made in Australia.
Awesome.
The bottle was sourced from China, just because of the customization that they could do and they could put all the specs and everything.
And we looked into every option, Asia, Malaysia. But to be honest, it was the quickest turnaround time for us. Yeah. And also, majority of it is also recyclable.
Yes, so sustainability is another big one for us.
Awesome. For us, it was the glass, brand. The aluminium and rubber in certain areas. And
this is like forestry stewardship approved in terms of the packaging, the cartoning, so you can recycle all of that. All this is recyclable. The aluminium is recyclable. The rubber stopper and the glass dropper, just got to check on your curbside pickup. But most of it should be 100% recyclable.
How many variations did you go through before you got the product that I have here?
Probably like 5 or 6. But so we did a lot of testing, heaps and heaps of Adobe Illustrator designs.
Ourselves, which I wouldn't recommend.
I spent 15 years becoming a doctor, and then I spent 12 months like being a master on Adobe Illustrator.
I mean, that's all part of the bootstrapping
It's part
process,
of the bootstrapping,
right?
seriously.
Yeah.
Yes.
The most ridiculous thing, and I would totally not recommend it. In hindsight, I've probably done 1,000 things differently. But there's so much benefit in understanding the process so that you know what to outsource in the future.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't understand the process yourself, then you don't know what you're getting is good or bad. You'll just get whatever's acceptable. And you're like, well, they're the professional. I'm relying on them. That's got to be the outcome. So we actually had a professional design team who really helped us with branding in the beginning. But when we're really looking at the finer details of packaging and all the rest of it, we instead of going back and forth, because like I said, we're kind of perfectionists. We're like, screw this. We're gonna actually just bring it in house and figure out how to do it ourselves, so we can make those tweaks and adjustments.
But like a pro tip, like going on Upwork or Fiverr is great for little design things. But if you want to create a brand that's going to stand out, the initial investment is worth it.
Yeah.
We spent at least, I think, 8 to 10K on
Yes.
our designs.
On branding.
On branding, logo,
Yeah.
how we wanted the Rockmelon font to look, how the lockup of the design, which fonts we wanted to use on our socials.
Yes.
And that was the color palette. Oh my gosh. That's another pain point is do yourself a favor, it's a $300 to $600 investment, but buy yourself a Pantone book. If you're going to print things, if
Yes.
you're going to
Pantone.
Pantone.
What you see on your computer is completely different
Completely
to
different to
Completely
everything
actual
else.
printout.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah,
nightmare.
even that was a major pain point in our business and
This
relationship.
was- this
you guys
was
did such a
actually-
great job because it looks really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can see lots of
I really
pain,
appreciate
lots of
it.
hours, and
Lots of pain, lots of hours.
And then
but
the
we've had
regulations is
guides.
another thing.
Yeah.
Skincare
Oh,
is
okay, yeah.
so there's obviously the Therapeutic Goods Administration, and then there's ACCC regulations. So you've got to make sure that you're compliant in Australia with not making claims about treatments, not including ingredients that do need like approval through the TGA, Therapeutic Goods Administration. And early on in the piece, we had an ingredient in our skincare.
We were like, this ingredient is so perfect for what we want to do. We're going to definitely include it. Only to find out right before we went to second formulation that it's actually, I think Australia's the only developed country in the world that regulates it.
And initially
and you can't
had
find out
only
why.
regulated it above 20%, but then suddenly has changed their mind and it was like at 1%.
And there's been heaps of pushback by the entire, like the medical community as well, like all these dermatologists are like, why is it like,
It's used all
why
over
is
the
it
world, it's
prescription
safe.
only, but it's used everywhere else, like over the counter? And it's like, well, if you're worried about this having side effects, like retinol, which you allow every other consumer to have, will do twice as much harm than other ingredients. But
And then later we realised that only in November of last year, retinol in Europe and
now
now
they're
coming
clamping
to
down on that.
Australia
They're clamping
is
down on
only, it needs to be less than 0.3%,
3%,
and 0.1% on the body. And then after that, it's considered a medicine. So
it's
it
considered
then
a drug that needs
has
TGA approval. Yeah.
in order to
regulations.
sell this overseas, do you need to go through the same process of approvals and
So
so on?
that so just to clarify, the good thing about this one is we checked for approvals and we wanted the product to be a cosmeceutical but not a pharmaceutical. So it only needs to have TGA approval, which is like thousands and thousands of dollars, like upwards of 50K, to get that approved if it's considered a therapeutic.
Okay.
So if you say that you've got a formulation that will cure acne or will cure melasma, then that's a very strong therapeutic claim, and therefore it's not a cosmetic anymore.
So sunscreen has to go through that process because
sunscreen's
it's
interesting. Sunscreen's in that TGA approval bucket list because
obviously if you don't have effective
it has a therapeutic level.
sunscreen, you can have skin cancers or
Yes.
That's right.
severe
Yes.
pigmentation problems. But to answer your question about overseas regulation, Australia is one of the most
Heavily
strict and heavily regulated. So if you're okay in
markets.
Australia, you're generally okay overseas.
9 times out of
Okay.
10 you're going to be fine overseas.
But Canada is another one that you've got to check. But generally we are one of
the
the
Blessing and a
strictest.
curse.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what people said. They're like, look, if you got your products approved in Australia, then
You're
you should
good
be
to
fine
go.
elsewhere. But obviously, double check when you're going abroad.
Yeah.
So, and I mean that we were at that stage where we are just now, expanding further into the Australian market.
Yeah.
We haven't even thought about overseas. Like you can buy us if you're overseas, but we're concentrating our marketing efforts like super niche, super narrow.
Yeah.
Make our mistakes in the playing field that we know before we expand and run into other things that we have no idea about, like something as simple as a regulation change. Yeah.
But that's like learning curves.
Yeah.
We launched to the world, and then we realised what VAT and taxes are like when
Which is
goods are
applied differently
imported.
to everything.
And I think I realised that 24 hours before launch, and
We got so many stories.
So many stories. I
So
was
I'm like, oh my God, this is going to crush us moment.
like to send our product to India, the taxes that they pay there is 90% of the cost of the product.
This is super.
Wow.
This
On
is
top of
super
the
ironic
product
because
cost.
we're South Asian background.
Yeah.
A lot of our market you would think is in India, like naturally.
Yeah.
And I think they do it purposefully. But the way that they tax imported goods from Western countries in particular, or from most places in general, is so heavily done. It's done purposefully. It's like anti-competition almost.
Yeah.
So
protect
it's
the local
yeah.
economy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But the irony is the products that are being sold in those markets the statistic was more than 70% of the products that are sold in the Indian market have skin bleaching in it, which is a massive issue. So we're talking about literally making your skin look white.
Yeah.
And the toxic chemicals that are in there, because it's not regulated. One of the most unregulated ones is mercury. So like mercury, we know mercury poisoning, it causes craziness. It can literally make you go mentally crazy. And the WHO has said that some skin bleaching products, they've done a study on it to show that it's one particular product had 50,000 times the upper limit of normal, or what was considered safe in this skin bleaching product. And they're definitely not as regulated as what Australia is.
I think I used to use that as a 10-year-old.
Yes. So there was a big movement. There was a brand over there.
Don't mention brands.
Don't mention brands.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
They had to change their name. They had to change their entire
wow.
name because they were basically.
And back when I used to
marketing
use
that.
it's very commonly known. But back when I used to use it used to contain mercury. It no longer does, thank God.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
But certain
crazy.
products, like over the counter, they still do.
So
Yeah.
our mission's lengthy because we're not going to stop till we get our education and our product to people who actually need it.
Yeah.
Who need to hear it, who need to treat their skin with kindness, treat it with respect, and
then love themselves.
and love themselves.
Honestly,
Yeah.
yeah.
And pass it on to the future generations. Because
Yeah.
I certainly don't want to bring up my daughter or my son in a world that still values that. And so we're at that precipice so we can change things.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's an awesome mission.
It is.
Thank you.
If you had to do it all again, what are 3 things you'd do differently?
Oh my God. Okay. I got too many. If I do 3 in particular.
Oh, just give us one thing. What was the biggest pain point that you could change if you could?
I don't know if I'd change anything because everything is a bit of a learning point.
That's
a good point.
I don't know. I don't know.
Everything's actually
Nothing.
been, and it's exactly what you said, because without the pains, you never learn. And I think lots of people get into business, if we're using that as a broader topic, and they think it's going to be, all, smelling the roses, etc. But we all know it's not. Like we think, but still some part of us is like, this is going to go perfectly for me. I'm going to be like the anomaly or whatever that is. And then you get your first setback and you're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Like, I think one of our very early on objections was finding out that there's a competitor that in this space that's overseas that does something similar to similar kind of vision of what we're doing. And I was like, she was like devastated. She was like, we got to change tack, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then we realized, oh my God, no, this actually de-risks us completely, because one of the biggest risks when running a business is launching to crickets. Like, you think you got an amazing product and then you overdo it, or you make it too sophisticated or whatever that is, and you launch to people who never ever want to buy it. And I think a really good example of that was what are those things that you see in the 2-wheeler ones, the Segways.
Oh,
The
Segways?
Segway was like a perfect business case study on how they'd raise all these millions of dollars, but then when they actually, it's meant to be the revolutionary way that people are going to travel, man-made travel, because it's not a bicycle, it's something different. And then they literally launched to crickets, and you don't see many Segways at all, apart from if you're in Washington, DC, you're on a Segway tour. Do you know what I mean? So that actually helped, in my mind, de-risk us completely. We're like, there is a market for this.
Yeah.
People do care about this messaging, and they feel passionately about that.
I think one of the learnings early on in the piece was to realize that, when I had that crisis moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, we have too many competitors, was to actually realize the spiral of burnout that you can potentially go under, and constantly work on your business all day, all night, not take a breather from it. I think, that's been the biggest learning point or failure or something I'd change, is realizing sooner that if you think you're a perfectionist at something or no one else can do what you can do, think again, because you can get people to help you with things. You can get people to help you with packaging. There's people are at our fingertips now through these online platforms, or even your nephew or someone can help you with something in your business, and you don't need to spend day and night on it just because you're the only one that can do it perfectly. You can record yourself doing something and someone can, emulate that, and essentially make sure that you schedule in, or I wish I scheduled sooner, time for myself. going to the gym, for example, now is a non-negotiable because he knows if I don't go to the gym, I am a nightmare to deal with the whole day, and then I
was
don't
gonna
show
say
up for anyone
Yeah.
like in a positive attitude for the business.
Yes.
So we both realize that if we don't do something as basic as that, self-care,
Yes.
and have self-compassion for ourselves, like that's the mission of the brand, then we're not going to lead the brand forward in a negative mindset.
That's awesome.
And I also think being patient, as crummy as it sounds, because I think lots of entrepreneurs and lots of people nowadays, we've got everything at our fingertips. Success is literally just there. Like you're hungry, I can press 2 buttons,
Everything you
and
need
within
is
half
there.
an hour, I get an Uber Eats at my door. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy how accessible things are to us. But know that anything that's worthwhile doing takes time and it takes effort, and it probably takes 10 times more time and 10 times more effort than you think it is.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, 10 times.
Yeah,
That's an
seriously.
understatement.
So just even having that as a concept makes me think that gives me a bit more patience, because now when I'm like, if I, that should have been done yesterday, or that should have been done 2 months ago, whatever that is, it's like, no, well, actually, this is part of the learning curve. Next time I do that, I'll be better at it because
Yeah.
I can foresee the obstacles that were there.
Because I think what we're seeing a lot is like so many entrepreneurs, so many startups, and you look at what their journey is now, but you don't know what they came to, like what they
Or
started off as.
you only see what they put out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of like a duck where they're just floating along, but beneath the
Exactly.
surface, it's gone.
Exactly.
Paddling
Or
like
you see an
crazy.
Barely
app,
keeping
or
the
you
head
see a
under
water.
platform, and
Yeah.
you're like, it's so easy to do. It's so put
Yes.
together. Holy moly, it is not easy to do.
Yeah.
Every little thing, like on our website, buttons that shouldn't be there just suddenly turn up for no
Yeah,
reason.
that's right.
You're like,
And then,
shouldn't this
and
be
then now
easy?
I'm like learning how to be a Shopify expert at the same time.
You go to one thing and you go to like
Yeah.
your mobile view and it's like, oh no, everything,
Everything's
every
out.
single thing is
Everything.
out. So,
Exactly.
You feel our pain. I think everyone's felt our pain with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just simple things like that. But I think having the patience to understand that you will get on top of it, and not everything needs to be done right now. But if you chip at, sometimes it's a huge mammoth task, like Facebook ads. Like when you say, I need to get onto this is a big
This
thing
is a
for
pain
us.
point.
So currently we're skilling up to be Facebook ad experts. That's a different story.
Yeah.
But it's like this huge behemoth task, and you're like, because you try outsourcing it, and then you get burnt a couple of times because people say that they're better than they are, or you don't know anything yourself. You're like, I don't know how to interpret the numbers.
They're like, we'll sort you out. Just pay us $5,000, and you also still need to pay for your ads, and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're like,
And as much as
a
you try
startup,
not, as
can't
much
do
as you
it.
tried to avoid these traps, you end up anyway. It's part of the learning curve. But give yourself that patience, give yourself that space to learn, I think. And I would say success does take time, and literally
Don't compare your like someone else's
I love that
story.
saying too. Yeah,
to
don't
your
compare
now.
your your year 0 to someone else's year 10.
Yeah.
So, which I think we're always surrounded by. Being
Awesome.
humble enough to be like, okay, this is a starting point, and we'll get there eventually. But I need to do these things before I can build the business and move it forward.
I feel like I need to watch this for myself
Yeah.
every
Just
day.
to take some
Take
self-advice,
notes from your
right?
own
Literally.
conversation. The last question for today, and I think you might have already answered it, was what's, in your eyes, what makes up a great entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a great question.
Oh yeah. Can I start?
Of course you can.
I think we've covered a lot of it. Is understanding that failure is part of the journey, not taking that failure too personally. It's okay if something fails, because knowledge is when you learn something from a failure, and knowledge is power or potential power. And when you can learn from that and do something about that, awesome. Be humble, because you don't know everything, and you're not meant to know everything.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And
You
that's
don't know.
that's the scariest quadrant to be in. Like, you don't know what you don't know. It's kind of like, yeah.
And ask for help, ask for mentorship if you need it. And you can role model other people, but sometimes that can be a bit of a trap in itself, and you feel like you need to be that person when actually you're your unique, authentic self, and you can be you, and people will be driven or attracted to that. Expand your team as soon as you're able to. Learn the concept of buying back your time. So time is your biggest asset, not money. And time is better spent on things that move the business forward and drive the needle forward, rather than on things like one little tiny thing on your website that's not going to convert, or stressing about how you organize your accounting when really the business hasn't even started making money. So really being mindful of things that you can allocate to someone else, or you might be able to employ someone for half the cost that it might take you, or the time that it will take you to do that task. So calculate that. And really good book is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Love that book. It changed the game for us.
Yeah.
We got a virtual assistant. We got a
I was going to say,
assistant.
I can see that you guys are applying those principles from our interactions and so on. I can already see you're buying back your time through that.
Yeah,
I think awesome.
I think it's knowing where, like, if you are this, until you're able to get a good leadership team, like the C-level executives who are able to really take your business to the next level, you are going to be that spear point. And so there's no point trying to hire those types of people when you haven't got the other stuff sorted. So yeah, I love that principle. It's kind of like you end up becoming the accountant because you've let other people take over and run your business, when actually what you want to do is outsource all the stuff that you don't want to do so that you can continue to, because you are the most valuable asset if you are the knowledge and the skill and you have that to move it forward.
And so, I think that's a really good trait to have as an entrepreneur, is realizing that it takes a team and it takes a manager to move that team forward. It's not just you.
It's very lonely, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And I'd say, just to come back to your question, what makes a great entrepreneur? For me, an entrepreneur is someone who's able to solve a real world problem to make their customer's life better. So for me, it's about impact. Like, I love what I do as a doctor, and I love trading, imparting and having like an impactful meaning on someone's life.
Yeah.
And I realized that when you can do it at scale and you can solve solutions in lots of other ways, and you can still have meaningful impact like we have with our brand, and that's why I think we're so passionate about it, because we see that connection to it. I think it's finding something and giving it to someone else that will change their life for the better, and having the courage to do so. Because so many of us I think the biggest part that holds us back is fear. And it's fear of failure. It's fear of rejection. We always seek comfort.
Fear of uncertainty. Like, you want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And
like
discomfort is not nice.
Having a 9-to-5 job as a doctor is very comfortable. Yeah. It's a very comfortable lifestyle.
Yeah.
But we realized that if that was me in 20 years' time, I couldn't think of a worst case scenario, like of not trying and not really having that broader impact that you want to have. So I think an entrepreneur is someone that can do that and have the courage, because courage is interesting. I love the term courage, because it doesn't mean that you're not fearful. It means that you're fearful, but you take action anyway. And I think a good entrepreneur needs to have that.
And last point is, like, for me, a good quality of an entrepreneur is knowing that it's going to be freaking hard, like, and being resilient.
100%.
And you're just going to have to, like.
I love focus. Have you heard of the acronym FOCUS?
No.
So it's follow one
course?
Follow one course until success. And I think the biggest part that most entrepreneurs have is the entrepreneurial ADD. It's kind of like, that's the bandwagon now, I'm going to jump onto that. Or, my mate's now making more money in real estate, I'm going to jump into that. But I think the true entrepreneur, and that's why I think it connects, it has to be something that connects more than just something as superficial as, money or selling something for the sake of selling something. I think when you can connect that to something that's deeper, then that'll really push things. That's where that's what gives you the energy to continue when you don't have the willpower. Like, willpower takes effort, but your purpose and your mission will drive you through those days that you really don't want to show up. So in some ways it does become effortless, but you do it to yourself. You
talk about this on your social media. I think the last thing is having a life partner, if that's what you choose to do in life, having a life partner that sees your goals, supports that goal, because that can be the make or break. I just have to mention one dot point, and he covers it all for me. So just chill out.
That's awesome.
She's like she's my super strength.
Yeah, we are each other's, I think. Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome to see. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so
much
for
having us.
Where can people find your product?
So you can go to www.rockmelon.com, or you can find us on our socials, which is @rockmelon on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok,
on YouTube.
And that's Rockmelon,
with an MELAN.
Because you need skincare to rock your melanin-rich skin, and love it.
Cool.
Yeah. And the serum is called Dewy Glow. So it's an all-in-one serum, has 5-in-1 active ingredients, and it's just life-changing.
Keep selling.
I genuinely find it very hard to be like fake and to promote something that I don't genuinely use myself, or
She's
that I
u-
really think is going to make a difference for someone. Like,
Well,
I
somebody
don't
came
have
up to me-
time to waste other people's
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So
Sanam, this
I'm
is
not
so good.
going to
We-
promote
we'll-
something I really don't believe in, but I believe in it.
I can't remember who somebody stopped me and they're like, does it actually work? I'm like, she's used it for 18 months. And they're like, where can I buy it? All she's used for
Your
18
face
months
is,
is
the
literally,
selling point,
is
right?
it. Yeah, don't use my
Like,
face.
because
but-
I truly think it has
but it
transformed
does.
my
Yeah.
skin
It
as
actually
well.
does.
Like, it has
but
helped.
also I wanted to extend to your audience. Like if they wanted to get in touch with us personally, drop us a DM. So at Dr. G Cash or at Dr. Sanam Dillon.
Or even
Or
email us at info@rockmelon.com.
Either or, we'd love to connect with your
We're always
audience
looking.
and impart any kind of little pearls of wisdom
Yeah.
if they want to take us up on it.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
Ed.
us.
You're a legend.